Hi everyone. Hi. I'm Waseke Maura. I'm a wellness and health consultant at Bright Future Pharmaceuticals. And I would love to, I have like 3 questions to Pius. How you talked about shares and stocks, and as a Noble Capitals, how do you help people to identify the best company to start? Maybe you are diving into, you want to build a strong portfolio of your investment, and do you guide people which the best company at that time or in future, which you can start building your rapport of shares and buying stocks? And the next question is, both of you will answer. And when Solomon talks about investors and approaching investors, when you have a company and maybe you need a fund, how do you write that proposal, and how do you identify the best investors to your business? Because you might approach everyone you know, but they are not willing, or they don't have that idea, or maybe they don't want to associate their business and relationship to your business. And the other question is, when you build a company, because of you two, you are running successful companies, how do you identify, when you want to build your board members, who do you identify as your board member? How do you choose those people to be in your company as directors, as CEOs, and all that? And also, for you, Solomon, as you run a Grad Acres, do you have a partake of a small business owners? Like, you have this ebook 5 which was running, and the deposit was quite high for maybe someone who in 6 months can complete that, but at the moment they don't have that amount. Maybe they have 50 or maybe 30, but they know in 6, even 5 months, they can complete that amount in a second. Do you have that part of a small person? Maybe everyone here who are doing maybe online businesses or that, they want to earn that piece of land, but when it's come to deposit, it's a $250,000. You're like, okay, I'm a business person, maybe per day get 3 or 5K or 10K. I can manage this, but at the moment, I don't have that 250K. Thank you.
Do we advise people on which stocks to buy? No, and I know that answer surprises you. We don't, for several reasons. First of all, the investment profession is very similar to medicine. We compare very well with doctors, because while doctors treat people of diseases, we treat people of their financial gaps. And there is no one person who has a similar financial circumstance as yours. And because of that, we are strongly advised that first of all, we must listen to our clients, understand their needs, and then prescribe as an investment solution that suits them. So me standing here and saying, this is the time to buy Safaricom, is being extremely unprofessional, because your risk profiles are all very different, and that may not be even what you really need to do right now. So we don't do that. The other thing is that the way our businesses are set up, we are set up in such a way that we are the ones who invest for you rather than advise you on what to invest. And that's for several reasons. Buying Safaricom today may be a good decision, but tomorrow, because things have changed so dramatically, we may be selling, but yesterday we told you to buy. So there is a risk management aspect to investment that must always be paid attention to, and that may not come together with that kind of advice that you are asking. So we believe that you should allow professionals to do what they're good at, and you should continue to do what you're good at. So if you really want to make money in any investment space, I would strongly advise you to work with professionals.
Well, I feel you. I mean, it's something we constantly struggle with. How do we provide the safest, most valuable product for everyone, accounting for all income groups and demographics and age groups and that sort of thing? Obviously, the younger of our community do not have the same earning power, earning opportunities as the older ones, because they're in school. It's normal, it's part of life, it's part of the journey. And that's something we're constantly in tension with. I will say we typically arrive at our prices, first of all, beginning with our acquisition cost of the inventory. That's a base, because there are other costs that go into that to develop the product that we eventually put in the market. And therefore, our advertised price is a function of that, accounting for what we ought to be profiting. And then there's also concerns around the valuation, fair market value, and that sort of thing. The market determines the value. Market always decides the value of anything. And the more people want something, the higher its value. The fewer the people that want something, the lower the value. Sometimes it even gets upside down. It cost us X, the market doesn't want this, we end up selling it for half what we paid for it and eat the loss and move on, right? If you're not careful in business, that's a very common occurrence. So our pricing, just to tackle the 999K, that's actually the cheapest product we've ever had at an acre. It's a whole acre. So I would argue it's very cheap. So my answer is always, let's distinguish between price and value. They're not the same thing. Most of you, I'm sure you've seen, because on prime time, like I said, everyone in the show is selling land. Prime time news hour, 50 by 100, and Naivasha, 50 by 100, and 50 Kimuka, wherever, right? Joska. Everyone is selling 50 by 100. What's the average pricing? 350 to 700. So on average, if I use the lowest number, 350 for 50 by 100, if you do the computation for an acre, that's 2.4 million, 2.8 million shillings for a whole acre. So in terms of value, 999K is still cheap. Okay, now see, the deposit is a function of the price to begin with. Why do I say that? Because, okay, so we've established 999K is a dirt cheap price for a whole acre, right? Why did we offer an acre instead of chopping it into 50 by 100s so that we can sell it to you for 350? Because the law does not allow us to do that in that area. Because we like to do things the right way. That's just the lowest, the smallest size of land as a product we can offer in Imbuko. Now, 999K is the price. Law Society of Kenya conditions of sale determine what a deposit has to be for a property transaction. Lowest contractual amount you can pay is 10% of the value of the transaction. 10% is the lowest. So that is the lowest we will charge, which should be 99,000 shillings, right? Equivalent. We opted to ask for 250 because we were very deliberate about making sure we start the transaction with the right people. Starting a transaction is easy. In fact, in theory, we are always sold out before we even advertise anything. We have waiting lists. One of the reasons we buy in certain areas is because we have so many people asking for land there. We know it's gone, even as we buy it. But now, starting is different from finishing. So we make our deposit amounts higher to pre-qualify, to ensure, first of all, you're serious about starting what you intend to finish. That's a primary objective, and we also take into consideration how much time we're giving you to pay the balance. So if the pricing advertised is too tight for you, what I would advise you and everyone else who asks us that question is give us a call, give us your proposed payment plan, and let's have a chat about it. We're very different from all the land sellers in the market because we deal with that on a case-by-case basis. We don't advertise mass-scale installment plans. We're not interested in that because we need to collect the funds within a specific period of time for commercial purposes. We have rent to pay, we have salaries to pay, we have the tea to pay for, and all sorts of other things, right? So how we receive the funds is very important. And these are things you learn as you grow a business, managing cash flows and the like. So if the 250K was too high, I understand. I don't feel some type of way about that. I am disappointed actually that we can't offer lower. We make very business decisions because it's a business at the end of the day. So if it's not working for you, let us know what works for you and let's see if it can work, if we can make it work. And the other question about investors and board members. Writing investor proposals, that's a skill everyone in business needs to learn. Prioritize it. There's a lot of content today. You can even pay for courses online. There's no excuse today. You know, as opposed to when I started, the opportunities to learn were not as accessible. Today, oh my goodness, it's Udemy, it's all over Strathmore Business School. I mean, it's a skill you need to learn. End of story. And it's all boils down to telling your story in a compelling manner. You've identified a problem, you figured out a solution, it's gonna cost X to provide the solution, it's gonna take X number of months, years, days to recoup the cost, and at the end, this is what's in it for you. Always remember, if you're pitching an investor, they don't care how nice your idea is. At the end of the day, it's okay, when am I getting my money back and what kind of profit can I expect? That's what drives and motivates an investor.
And Solo, there was a twist to her question. It was around how do you attract the right kind of investor?
Okay, how do you attract the right one? A lot. I mean, some of what we've already said helps with that. Your character will attract whatever it is you're putting out. You know, a friend of mine told me years ago, I had been offered money by a very wishy-washy chap. It was silly money. It was 30 million shillings for a project in cash, cold hard cash. The girl was like, you can use it, just tell me when I can have it back and what's the profit. I was like, great. Will you send me your contract or shall I have my lawyer draw up one? Like, no documents, take it or leave it. I was like, okay. First of all, my bank would let me deposit it without documentation for proof. So how am I making that work? It's like, that's your problem to figure out. And so I had to decline the fund, and I needed the money so badly. I had to say no, thank you, but no thanks. And I was a bit depressed later. I was having coffee with a friend and I was like, okay, so how do I raise the money I need? And I explained to him what had just happened, and he said something very interesting to me. He's like, Solo, don't worry, just stick on the straight and narrow. Because you know what? Even the crooked guys need clean guys to trust with their crooked money. So just stay there and you'll attract the right guys. And he was absolutely right. So character. What vibes are you putting out into the atmosphere with your character? That's step number one. Number two, you have to be very detailed with your story. This is a common problem in my industry. It's easy to attract capital, but it's not always the right capital. Real estate is a long-term business. It takes time to get in and out. It's just the way it is. So you need patient capital. It's long-term money. So as you engage investors, you'll start to learn what types of investors are in the pool, who is the right profile for the journey of your enterprise, right? That's step number two. But that is largely dependent on how clear and succinct you are with your storytelling for your business. Why do you need the money? What's the problem you're solving? How long does it take to solve it? These are the potential returns and that sort of thing. You have to be very good at telling the story. That presumes your character is sorted out to begin with, and then you can take it from there. That's been my experience so far. And same goes for board members, boards of directors, advisory boards. We're actually in the process of appointing people to our boards. And we discovered after everyone we asked to join our board said yes, a very experienced board director, sits on global boards, said, yes, but you don't need a board of directors. It's actually going to be a problem for you more than a solution. And I said, really? Why? It's like, because first of all, in Kenya today, directors have some measure of liability and exposure to sitting on your board personally. That's number one. So the type of director you want may not be willing to take on that liability. That's number one. Number two, what you really need is advice, not decision making. And boards and things come in the realm of governance. When you're talking about governance with business, managing relationships, opening doors, attracting capital, managing the capital well, that sort of thing, right? And they actually said to us, forget about directors, just get an advisory board, because you get the same thing without the baggage that comes along with filing returns. For instance, one of the things I learned years ago, shockingly, is that if any one of my directors on my board is not tax compliant personally themselves, I want a clearance certificate here, KRA. If they're on my board for my business and my business is compliant, I will not be given a tax compliance certificate as a business. All my directors have to be tax compliant for the business that they sit on the board for to be issued a tax compliance certificate. So is that something you want to be concerned about as you're growing your business right now? It's a timing issue, right? Most recently, I had a chat with a very successful businessman, billionaire. I can't even describe. It's insane. It's not an exaggeration. I introduced Pius to him in a room next door a few weeks ago. And we were discussing this very issue. And I asked him about boards and so on. He's like, but Solomon, me, I've been in business longer than you have almost been alive. I do not have a board. It's me and my brother. So do you need a board? What do you need a board for? There can be problems. For your business, you don't need to worry about boards. It's about efficient decision making. The problem is a lot of us are not disciplined enough to make the right decisions on our own. We make massive mistakes, and therefore mostly investors will require governance structures put in place to control your bad decision making, to protect the investment and grow the business and provide the shareholders a return and blah, blah, blah. And that was a very different perspective coming from someone who is obviously successful. Hands down, has achieved success, and in his opinion, a board would have prevented him from having the success he has now. My answer is, look at your specific circumstances, look at your timing. The way you're going to attract the right directors or advisors is exactly the same way you're going to attract the right people in your life. Deal with your character, be clear with your storytelling, and the rest you'll figure out as you go. Thank you so much for watching and tuning in and being part of this conversation. You have been watching The Tea with Pius and Solo. See you next time.